Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for this Day 6 live coverage of CMA Industry Week as we spend some time spotlighting one of our important distributors here in Canada, and that, of course, is Gemsen Distribution. Had some great sessions today with some of their key partners, and the fun continues for 2 more hours. And the next one I'm particularly excited about because this one I get to do with my buddy Dave. What's going on, Dave?
I'm great, and I'm excited about this one too because we get to relax a little bit and converse at a pace that we're not, running at full speed all the time like we have been for the last couple of hours. So
yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to Morel, I have a connection with Morel from the past. I was a customer of Morel's in the sense that I purchased them for a personal vehicle quite a few years back. So I have a personal attachment to it because it brings back a lot of fun times and that when I was younger, and I really enjoyed those speakers. But Morel's grown so much since then. And
how long ago was that?
That was probably early 2000s.
And what's interesting is a lot of people are not familiar with the Morel brand name, but they've been around for such a long time. And you're talking, almost 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that their signature grills have, they've always had the big circles around, and that look and feel has always been there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But what do we want to do in this session, Dave? What is this all about? Other than obviously we're going to be talking about some Morel product, but what do we want to achieve here?
Well, I think for a lot of people, there's dealers, consumers that are not familiar with Morel. And, we want to kind of set the foundation of who Morel is, what their philosophy is, what kind of things that they do, and show that, they're not an up-and-coming company. They've got a well-established history and legacy of producing some of the, the greatest transducers in the market. One thing about Morel, if I was trying to explain it to a customer, is it's about passion for music. This is not about developing product that, they're concerned about how many millions or whatever they can sell. Their passion behind all of the product that they develop is around reproducing that authentic sound, that authentic experience that you have when you're listening to live music. So God knows, especially now, we could all use an escape from reality. And, one of the ways that I can think of that, is amazing is just to throw your favorite song on, listen to it in your car stereo, and just kind of escape all the silliness that's going on. So getting to that realistic, true reproduction of what the original sound performer had is Morel's priority when they are developing all their products. So,
sorry to cut you off. I just, you just made me think of something. It's probably some of the most natural sounding loudspeakers that I've ever heard. There's not a lot of color to it. It's not too high. It's really hard to explain, but I'm really excited to see how they've broken down, their lineup. Hopefully we'll get to get into that, Dave, and showcase some of the new offerings that they have, and maybe give some different perspective for the dealers who are tuning into this, saying, Morel, eh?
You bring up a couple of good points. You said, they don't sound too high, meaning I guess that brightness that you're probably referring to. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, that goes back to what the original design philosophy is. A really good sounding speaker shouldn't have a sound. It should be invisible. It should sound exactly the way the original performer sounded. So, these colorations, I guess we could call them or whatever, what they're doing is changing the sound of the music, and yes, it might be appealing to some people to have a brighter sound, and some people might want it a little bit smoother or duller or whatever you want to say. The Morel philosophy is let's try to get it to sound identical to what it originally sounded like.
We got a great video that Morel's provided to kind of set the mood of our conversation over the next hour, Dave. How do we start with that?
Absolutely.
When music meets engineering, that is what sparked Morel's loudspeakers. At Morel, we constantly seek to challenge ordinary speaker design. For over 40 years, Morel's product development has been innovating speakers to perfection. We believe speakers connect to listeners on an emotional level. To overcome acoustic challenges, our unique design process derives inspiration from nature. The lotus flower and the basalt rock are the origin of our low-resonance grills. Hand craftsmanship and attention to detail are at the heart of the production process. Over the years, Morel has inspired people to enjoy music all around the world, literally everywhere. The Morel sound beats in every speaker we make. This is our passion. Morel, unleash the music everywhere.
That's nice.
Well, let's call it a day. I think that kind of sends a message.
You don't get away that easy, Dave. I'm sorry. I'll hook you up, but not. I can't let you go yet.
Okay.
What do you think? I guess we'll dive into a presentation. How about that? We'll go through it. We'll go through an overview, and then we can have a discussion on what we learned, and maybe bring up some important questions that we'd like to clarify to our audience.
Yeah, we'll use some of the slides. You know, just it's been a long day, so it'll keep us on track, and we'll show you a little bit about who Morel is, and we'll get into some of the new products that are exciting for the 45th anniversary of Morel, which is a really important milestone for them.
All right, let's go ahead.
So, you know, real simple. A lot of people aren't aware that Morel is based out of Israel, and I don't know if you can pay attention to much of the technology that's happening, but Israel seems to be a hotspot hub for all kinds of innovation. You know, you've got companies like Mobileye and all kinds of self-driving technologies. You know, Israel is a technological hub, I guess you could say. And this is where all the premium speakers are made. Morel was actually founded by Mayor Mordecai. That's him pictured right there. 45 years ago. He's still involved with the company. His son is actively involved too, and he kind of has taken over the reins a lot. But their pride is the craftsmanship. You know, all of their premium product is handcrafted and built in-house. And they're building product for car, home audio, hi-fi market. You know, a lot of their drivers are built to such high degrees of performance that some of the most popular companies, and we'll talk about that in a second, are using Morel drivers in their components because of how well they perform. So, oh, I got a weird thing going on with my computer here. So, my apologies. So, you know, just a little bit about who Morel is globally. You know, they've got offices in New York, Arizona. I mentioned that they have a production and engineering in their headquarters in Israel. They also build some of their entry-level product over in Beijing, China. But globally, I mean, you know, they're not a small company. They're sold in over 50 countries, you know, across the world. And, you know, some of the biggest markets for Morel are places like Japan and China, where guys are fanatics about sound quality. You know, there's a series from Morel called the Supremo, which is, you know, about a close to $9,000 system, and they are one of the number one. Yeah, I understand they got a big population, but they're one of the number one markets out there for that speaker system that they offer. So huge global market. You know, I was saying a little bit earlier that some of the categories they play in, yeah, we know, you know, we're here to talk about the car audio product, but on the OEM side, you know, about 20% of their business goes there, 20% of their business in their hi-fi division, and a little bit over half is on the automotive market. You know, when we look at their raw drivers, and this is where the engineering...
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah.
Dave.
Hello?
Do you hear me, Dave?
Yep.
Hey, Dave, I don't know if you can hear me. Hello? I just want to make sure your settings are optimized.
Oh, okay. Everything okay now? All right. Hopefully you can hear me now, Ben. Oh, sorry. Alrighty, Ben. Let's go back. Bear with us 1 second.
Hello? Hey, Ben, can you hear me? Ben?
Yeah, Dave, I'm here.
All right. I thought I lost you there. I think I had some sort of weird network crash on there. Is everything okay?
No, please continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
My apologies. So back before the weird technological glitch there, we were talking about some of the OEM transducer business that they do. And, one of the things that Morel is able to do is build drivers and use their research and development team to really push the envelope as to some of the products that they can bring to market. And if you look real quickly at this particular breakdown of some of the OEM clients that they have, you'll recognize a lot of familiar names. In fact, companies like Magico, Kef, Lin, Pagani, they're a supercar manufacturer. They're using Morel products in there. There's just a host of very well-respected companies throughout the world that utilize Morel drivers throughout all of their different products. So while some people may not be familiar with Morel, there's a good chance that you've come across some sort of product and you've seen Morel products or even heard them without you knowing it. So next thing I want to talk about, and I hope we don't continue to have this issue here, is the home audio side of things. On the home audio side, Morel's got a pretty large variety of offerings. That black pair of speakers that you see there are called the Fat Lady. That's their masterpiece. It's the best of the best, and it's made entirely out of carbon fiber. Morel has things for the hi-fi enthusiasts. There's products like these little cubes, or I should say cylinders or spears, and those are used in the home theater application. Morel also has a good selection of product for the custom integration categories as well. We'll show you a couple of products that are based on some of the car audio stuff that they use for CI. So aside from the OEM side, the hi-fi side, we're here to talk about the car audio. And this is a good representation of the different series of products that Morel has to offer. There's things that cater to the entry-level customer. We have amplifiers, we have subwoofers, components, coaxes, et cetera, So there's a pretty large variety. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time to talk about all of it. We really want to focus on the new stuff that is being launched for their 45th anniversary. But just to give you an idea of all the different places that Morel plays with when it comes to car audio. I was explaining a little bit earlier, some of the things that Morel does for high-end manufacturers. It kind of puts the Morel position in the high-end category. Yeah, we have some entry-level products, but really at the end of the day, they are out to develop some of the best-sounding product out in the market, and their position is rightfully so at the top of this pyramid. So, what makes Morel different? You, Ben, you said you were playing around with some speakers previously, and you liked the sound because it was much smoother. Right.
I mean, look, just going back to that pyramid, I would add it probably plays in the high end to the ultra high end. If you're into speakers that cost anywhere north of $3,000, you're in the ultra high end, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So, and I don't, with their entry is not, it's not that it's entry from a price point standpoint, because let's just out of the gate say these are not $99 speakers. If anybody's looking at this for the first time thinking that this is going to be your $99 speaker solution, it is not. Their entry level is quite high and higher, and as you can see with their heritage with home audio and pro audio for that matter, and the collaborations that they've had with the premium brands in different markets, it is what it is, and so it is a premium to ultra premium, and that's what and it's great, and everybody should appreciate that.
You know, some of the things that Morel is well known for is their technology, and this is just a few examples of some of the technologies that they employ. You know, there's dozens and dozens of unique things that they do, but you know, some of the ones that we really got to point out on the premium speakers, we're using Hexatech aluminum voice coil. So the voice coil windings are made out of aluminum, okay, but a standard voice coil, they can be made out of different materials. It could be aluminum, could be copper or whatever, but they're round. You know, the individual windings are round. And when you wind that around the voice coil bobbin, you have these little gaps in between. And these little gaps are air gaps. What Morel has done is they've engineered Hexatech voice coil. So it's a hexagon-shaped wire. And when you wrap that around the bobbin, you're basically eliminating all those little air gaps that you would normally get. In fact, the benefit of this is, I believe, up to 30% more efficiency by using the Hexatech voice coil.
If I may, you know, the hexagon in nature is one of the strongest shapes out there for several reasons, and here's a perfect example of why. If you're looking at this is very interesting that Morel does that. They've actually engineered the filament that wraps around the voice coil in a hexagonal shape, such that when it wraps, it completely eliminates any space in between, like Dave said. But what really the benefit of that is there's no loss of energy transfer between the contact of each wind, which
absolutely
pretty neat.
And like I said, it increases the efficiency. I think I said 30 before. I apologize. I meant 20%, but that's pretty significant. By increasing the efficiency by 20%, you know, you're going to have a driver that can perform more accurately, more precisely. Another feature we can talk about is the external voice coil motor system. Okay, so on the bottom there's two little pictures there of a conventional speaker on the right and what Morel does on their premium speakers on the left. What you'll notice is the voice coil on the Morel speaker on the left is significantly larger. In fact, most voice coils from Morel are about 3 times larger than what you would find out in the market. So one of the advantages of the larger voice coil is more power handling, but it also allows Morel to employ their EVC, which basically takes the motor system, which would normally be ferrite and be on the outer area of the voice coil, and move that to inside the voice coil. So you've got these massive voice coils, and then you've got the motor assembly inside. Some of the benefits of putting the motor assembly inside, aside from efficiency, is also magnetic shielding. You know, we have a lot of cars nowadays where, you know, they're using all kinds of computers. You're jamming speakers and kick panels and that sort of thing, and they're sensitive towards magnetic fields. So all of the Morel speakers that employ the EVC are magnetically shielded. The EVC architecture is 90% more efficient than a conventional design. That's significant. Makes a huge difference in how well the speaker can perform. And aside from the EVC, we'll talk a little bit about the car filter. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but on the back of some speakers, there's like on the back of a Morel speaker, it looks like there's a piece of it's a filter essentially. And what that basically does, it improves the loading and controlling the airflow within the driver. It's kind of like simulating a bit of an enclosure of some sort. You know, it kind of mimics a cabinet. So the use of the car filter increases the power handling by 30%. So those are just a few of the technologies that Morel's employing. There's so many other ones that they're using, and we don't have the time to go through each one of them. But these are the 3 top ones that you'll notice when you look at a Morel speaker. Oops, went the wrong way there. So, you know, another part of the Morel mentality is not only is it trying to emulate the original sound that the artist produced, but, you know, Morel has a deep appreciation for art. And when you look at the shape of the Fat Lady, it's a very unconventional design. You know, it's it's one of those things that you could put in your living room, and without even playing it as a speaker, just look at it as, really a piece of art. This is the Fat Lady, as I mentioned, and it kind of mimics the shape of a musical instrument. If you looked at it dead on, you'd think, hey, it kind of looks like a cello or a bass or of some sort. I don't know, Ben, if you've ever had a chance to see or hear one of these things, but let me tell you, they're absolutely breathtaking.
I've never had the privilege of listening to quite that high end. I have had the privilege of auditioning a couple of the bookshelf speakers in the past. But as far as the Fat Lady is concerned, oh my God, the carbon fiber.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and
Jeez,
when you
that's
look at definitely not an inexpensive speaker. When you get a chance to see one up close, and you have a true appreciation for how exotic this enclosure really is. You can only imagine the amount of carbon fiber material being used. And this isn't a wooden box that's just draped in carbon fiber. This is pure carbon fiber enclosure. So it's built entirely out of carbon fiber. Ben, you were mentioning a little bit earlier about the funky grill.
Yes.
I think this is a grill that you were talking about. And Morel takes a lot of design influences away from things like nature. This is what we refer to as the Lotus grill. And, not only does it look funky, but its design helps eliminate the horn effects that you can get out of conventional mesh type grills. So yes, it does look pretty, but it actually has a purpose, and it's quite expensive to do. A mesh grill is just a sheet that gets pressed into something, into the shape that you want. But when you get into the Lotus grills, this is much more expensive to do, but it actually has a benefit to the performance of the driver, as well as just looking pretty. So going back to the whole philosophy behind Morel, it's all about sound. It's all about music. It's all about being natural, dynamic, sweet, and creating that emotion that we all want to have when we experience music. That escape. Sometimes you listen to music and you can get goosebumps. You're temporarily removed from, the world that we're in, and you listen to a track, maybe something that brings back memories, or something you just haven't heard the way that it was meant to be heard. And when you listen to it using Morel speakers, you can hear details, you can hear instruments, you can hear nuances that you didn't realize existed. So creating that emotion connection is one of the primary philosophies behind what Morel does. I mentioned a little bit earlier, they're celebrating 45 years, and their pride of the company is the fact that the premium speakers are all built in-house, and they're super proud of their craftsmanship. To develop speakers, it's very easy to come up with a recipe and then send it elsewhere for somebody else to do. But to have your own facility and have control of the quality control, have control over the techniques that are used, because sometimes you don't want to share the techniques with an outside vendor, how you want your speakers built. This is a big deal to Morel. Doing all of this in-house, creating the innovative solutions, are really the reason why Morel is having the success that they're having. I was talking a little bit earlier about some of the OEM things, but Ben, you can appreciate this. I think me and you were talking about a couple of these cars. These are premium supercars. These are not, your ordinary run-of-the-mill.
No. Hold on, Dave. These are not premium. These are called ultra cars. And the reason when a vehicle is more than $2 million, you're in the ultra status. Just to make it, I've happened to be in the presence and have been behind the wheel, albeit not on a track, of a Pagani Zonda, as well as a Huayra. In fact, the full carbon fiber version, and it's sick. I mean, it's just gross. It's the attention to detail, the craftsmanship of these cars is absolutely breathtaking. Like, if you can just take 30 seconds and you would appreciate it. So when I found out Morel was in these, I was like, whoa, okay.
What's a Pagani Zonda cost? What's roughly, any idea?
I don't know, $1 million.
So here you are, you've got vehicles that are, basically money is no object. So the performance of the sound system and the quality of the product, is being seen the same way. And it's it's a privilege to be chosen as the official supplier for these particular applications. I mean, people could spend money on anything. They're deciding that Morel is the best fit, that has an association that's relatively the same as their own brands, Pagani, Karma, Starcraft handmade boats. I mean, these are all not inexpensive purchases.
I stand corrected. I just Googled that quickly. The Zonda is 1.4 mil US.
Wow.
And yeah, it's way up there.
But can you finance it?
I'm sure you can put it on a credit card of some kind.
Get some winter tires and becomes a family car for sure.
The wire is 3.5 mil.
Wow. So
hypercar. Sorry, I correct myself. It's not an ultra car. It's a hypercar.
There we go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't see. It's not like, I don't know where everybody is located, but I mean, it's not uncommon to see Lamborghini, Ferrari dealerships, McLaren, that sort of stuff. But Pagani and these brands, I mean, these are uber elite. These are,
there's no
like
dealership.
you said,
there's no delership. Yeah.
Drop ship right to your house. There you go.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of a simplified look at who Morel is. Going back once again, it's all about passion. It's about developing the best speakers possible. It's about developing, or simulating the same type of experience that the original performer had, and losing yourself in that experience. Morel has no shortness in terms of R&D capabilities, and this has allowed them to create products for different price points and different customers that will satisfy their different needs. So, we'll talk about some of those products, with the focus being the new for 2021, but I should acknowledge a couple of the other products in the lineup just so that guys have a better idea of where they stand. So before we get into that, let's kind of look at the Morel car audio lineup as split into 3 different categories. Resolution, which is exactly what you would expect. Resolution, the best sounding, the most detailed, drivers you can get there. Then there's a reference series, and then there's the performance. So, aside from components, coaxials, there's some subwoofers that you'll see there. There's some amplifiers. We're not going to spend a lot of time on those because we just don't have the time. But the Supremo is the best of the best in the Morel lineup. In fact, let me go to the slide here. When you look at this particular speaker system, you've got a carbon fiber cone. We're using the Morel Piccolo tweeter. Now, the Piccolo tweeter is considered one of the most respected tweeters out in the industry. Unfortunately, I don't have one with me, but it's not a small tweeter. It's fairly large, and it's got an open cavity in the back. So it's definitely one of those custom build type applications where, hey, if you're spending $8,000, retail on a set of these speakers, you're definitely getting some custom work done. But one of the things that you should note on the Supremo woofers is the size of the voice coil. That's a 3-inch voice coil. We're looking at a 6.5-inch driver, so almost half of the driver is voice coil. We're using the carbon fiber cone, as I mentioned. It's a sandwich cone with roll cell. But the performance of these speakers, and one thing that Morel is really known for, is their off-axis response, and a lot of that has to do with the tweeter. Most of their speakers employ a 1.1-inch tweeter that has a very large, high dome to it, and that high dome gives you excellent off-axis response. That's super important, especially when we're looking at things like cars where you're not exactly putting tweeters in the most ideal locations. Having that off-axis response or extended off-axis response really can make the sound system sound so much better. The crossover components that you're going to notice, I mean, they're the best of the best. And obviously, when you look at the style of the crossover, it's a very unique, distinguishable crossover platform. It's kind of got that, I guess, mushroom shape. And it's a beautiful looking crossover with the best components that you can find in the industry. Bi-amplifiable, of course. All of the tweeters are using the Lotus Grill, and I was talking about the Lotus Grill earlier, as well as the mid-range. So this is, it's not one of the newer products. It's one of the existing products that have been around for a long time, but I want to recognize the fact that this is the best of the best. Then we get into the new stuff. And, this picture is a fairly important picture. I mentioned earlier, Morel celebrating 45 years. And late last year, they launched a whole new series of different speakers. This particular picture here, believe it or not, that's actually a speaker sitting inside water with a gold liquid. And I told you Morel has this appreciation for art. What they did is they teamed up with an artist called Miriam Kabasa. And what they wanted to do was show a visualization of what sound waves look like. We can't see sound waves. We can hear them. The effect that they were able to achieve by submersing this speaker in water and playing different frequencies, not was only cool to see in terms of what the sound waves look like. It lent itself to be, very beautiful. It's art in itself. In fact, this same visualization is something that they're carrying over on all the new marketing, for 2021. So the new brochure, for example, which is beautiful, I got a copy right here, uses all the new artwork. All of the packaging that you'll see for Morel utilizes that same type of similar look. Look, if you're going to be spending, a significant amount of money on a high quality speaker, you definitely want to be impressed from the get-go. So this is an excellent collaboration, and it's definitely been beneficial to both people. So let's talk a little bit about just the series below the Supremo. There's two. There's actually called the Elate Carbon and the Elate Carbon Pro, and this is entirely brand new.
Now, is any of this new? Oh, sorry, you just said it.
This series. Yeah, this series.
Okay.
So Supremo is the way it was. This is the new stuff. Elate Carbon and the Elate Carbon Pro, new for 2021. I think we might have a video on that, Ben. If you can cue that up, and then we'll talk about what.
Keep talking. Give me 30 more seconds, Dave.
Absolutely.
Keep talking.
While Ben pulls up the video, here's a quick shot of the Carbon series. So if anybody remembers the Elate series from before, they were not carbon fiber cones. This entire new series is carbon fiber. In fact, it lends itself to a lot of the technologies similar to that of Supremo. Supremo is an excellent sounding speaker. But it's a sound quality speaker and not necessarily a high power handling speaker, and that's because of its underhung voice coil. So what Morel was able to do is create a series of speaker that employs a lot of the technologies that you'll see in the Supremo, but bring it into a series that is less money, but has the same DNA as the Supremo, with the added benefit of additional power handling, etc.
Okay, ready to go to that video, Dave.
Let's go. Pretty cool production facility there, and
it's just something so satisfying about seeing that handmade, from the soldering to the assembly, just very satisfying to me.
Coatment on the coating on the tweeter, you know, something I didn't talk a lot about, but you know, that coating, you may have seen it in that video or the video
AccuFlex.
before. AccuFlex, 100%, and that's a coating that they put on the tweeter. It helps add rigidity to that high dome, as well as gets rid of some of the harmonic distortion that you can encounter. So going back to those slides, the Elate Carbon series, we're probably doing this a little bit backwards because we should be talking about the better one first, which is the Carbon Pro. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to fast forward to the Carbon Pro. So this would be the step down from the Supremo. The difference between the Carbon Pro and the Carbon, they utilize the exact same drivers. It's just that the tweeters are different. So in the Carbon Pro, we have a new tweeter, which is called the Alto. And I have a sample. By the way, this is the...
Oh, hold on. We need to take a look at that. There you go.
Okay. So this is what the packaging looks like. And I'm going to open it up, and hopefully the camera will kind of give you an idea of what you get when you open up the box. Presentation is excellent. You know, it's kind of got this velvety type cover to it with the Unleash the Music slogan that Morel uses. So I'm going to pull that cover off there, and you get a glimpse of, you know, what the contents are. I'm going to pull out the Alto tweeter here. Let me just take that one cover off. This one in particular is a three-way setup. Okay. The Alto tweeter is very similar to the tweeter design that we're using in the Supremo. I mentioned that the Supremo uses a piccolo tweeter, and that's a very large tweeter. It's got a big cavity on the back. So this is definitely a speaker system that's going to involve some sort of custom installation, right? This tweeter typically will not fit in your average application factory location, that sort of thing. But if you are looking for Supremo type performance and want to get the added benefit of additional power handling, you know, the Elate Carbon Pro is a way to go. So let me pull out a driver here, and I hope that everybody can get an idea for how beautiful that driver actually is. Okay. Ben, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that. That is...
You know, so, you know,
nice.
One of the things as I get a little bit closer to the camera here is you may be able to see the massive size of the voice coil. You know, the voice coil itself on this thing is, you know, 3 times larger than a conventional voice coil. I'm going to pull the grill off of this. Obviously, we're utilizing the Lotus grill, okay, on the 6.5 inch. This is the 3.5 that we'll talk about in the tweeter. And they're on there a little bit good. But there's a look at the front of the cone, you know, carbon fiber as well. You know, it's got a beautiful brushed aluminum treatment on the edge of the speaker. That's something that's brand new and that didn't exist on the previous Elate series. And that is consistent through all of them, okay? So you can basically get similar type performance to the Supremo with the Carbon Pro and the Alto tweeter. Or, you know, if you are not up to the custom installation, you know, that involves, you know, all the fabrication for the tweeter, you know, you can just go with the regular Elate Pro, the Elate Carbon, the non-Pro series. So it's exactly the same speakers, just with a more conventional tweeter. Unfortunately, I don't have it. I have it here. Let me go back to that slide. It's a 1.1 inch tweeter, and that can be mounted in behind most factory, you know, grill openings if that's what you're going to end up doing. Okay, this thing here is new. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the Morel lineup, but typically in the 3-way systems, Morel always used to employ a dome mid-range, and the dome mid-ranges were awesome, but people were looking for something with a little bit wider dispersion, and Morel came up with this speaker here. It's entirely brand new for 2021, and the amount of off-axis response is phenomenal on this speaker as opposed to the typical dome mid-range. Now, don't get us wrong, the dome mid-range was an awesome speaker. In fact, you know, it was highly sought after because, you know, in a 3-way application, especially if you're doing a pillar or something like that, you may not have the depth for, you know, conventional style speaker. Although this is, you know, somewhat shallow, it's definitely not the same as a dome mid-range. But once again, that person that's looking for the best performance possible is going to want to opt for using this new 3-way setup with the 3.5-inch driver in it.
Hey, Dave, I gotta let you know you have about 9 minutes left. I know we have a couple series we still need to cover.
Okay. So much for stretching this.
Yeah, there's no stretching.
So yeah, going back to the Carbon Pro, and then the next series below that, real quick, is the Hybrid series. Okay, and the Hybrid series, I don't have a sample of it here. We're going kind of backwards, and I'm going to skip through most of these slides because these are things I already talked about. This is the Alto tweeter, of course, and that's the tweeter being used in the non-Carbon Pro, the conventional style tweeter. This is the MM3 mid-range. You know, it's a 3.5-inch mid-range with a 2.25-inch voice coil. That's super large, excellent off access, wide dispersion. And then we also have the mid-bass drivers available in 5.25, 6-inch, and 9-inch. I should add that these systems are available in passive configurations or active. Obviously, as a system of this caliber, you want to go active. All right. So then we get into the new for 2021 Hybrid and Hybrid Integra. Okay, Integra is kind of an important word. In fact, we're going to use that as our keyword, Integra. So the Hybrid series is a component series. They're using massive voice coils, 2.25-inch aluminum Hexatech voice coils. You've got the 1.1-inch dome tweeter. You also have the 2.1-inch mid-range tweeter. So this is, you know, for the guy that's still looking for, you know, dynamic bass response, excellent sound quality. You know, doesn't have the budget for a Elate Carbon or Elate Carbon Pro, but, you know, wants that Morel signature sound. We have what we also call the Integra series. Now, some people might call this a coaxial, but it's not a coaxial. If you look at the tweeter, what you notice is the tweeter is recessed deep into the speaker, and that ensures that the sound from the tweeter and the sound from the mid-range are coming from the same point, eliminating a lot of the phase issues you have when you put a tweeter on a coaxial mount. You know, these also employ the 2.25-inch voice coils, so those are large voice coils, and they still have massive tweeters. Even though this is a little 4-inch speaker that we're seeing in the bottom corner there, you know, it's still using that massive 2.25-inch voice coil. So beautiful look to those speakers. This is just a breakdown of the individual speakers, but you know, this is the dome mid-range that I was talking about. This is a mid-range, but extremely shallow. Excellent off-axis response, but not as good as the new 3.5. And you can get these systems in a 4-inch, a 5-inch, and a 6.5-inch. Okay. When it comes to the Integra series, we do make a 4, a 5, and a 6. The 4-inch fits in a lot of European vehicles quite easily. They also employ the large voice coil, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. But, you know, this is the one I really want to spend a little bit of time on that we ran out of tons of time to focus on. But this is the Nano Carbon. And I'm going to pull up.
You do have a set.
Yeah.
Look this in that boxes.
Kind of looks like a box of donuts. And I wish they were right now because we've been going nonstop, and I've been surviving off of crackers and water all day. So here it is here. I'm not going to show you, you know, what it looks like on the inside. The presentation is the same. But what I really want to focus on is what a problem solver this particular driver is. Okay. So some of the things that guys deal with, especially when you look at hot rods and any type of vehicle where you don't have a lot of space to play with. This speaker is a godsend. Okay, I'm going to show you the side profile of it. Okay. All right. So the speaker only requires 0.7 inches of mounting depth, which is ridiculous. Okay, that's almost like taking a piece of 3/4-inch MDF and cutting a hole and dropping the speaker in. You know, first time I ever saw the speaker was at CES, and I'm like, you know, all right, it's thin and everything, and you know that's cool, but there's no way you're getting any type of bass. And you know, don't take my word for it. I can put you in touch with all kinds of dealers that have played around with this. The amount of bass you get out of here is surprising. Now, it's not the same as a conventional style driver, but it is very surprising. Actually, the following year at CES, they had a pair of these in some enclosures. And when I first heard it, I was looking around the room for a subwoofer because I didn't believe that kind of bass would come from these particular drivers. Okay. So you can get the setup in a two-way and a three-way. Okay, and we also have a point source version of that. Okay, which hopefully Ben will show on the screen here real quick here. Point source. I mean, imagine taking a driver that thin and throwing a tweeter in it. You know, that's amazing in itself. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of success with this particular speaker. Guys that do hot rods, you know, it's become their number one choice. You know, some of them just have reached out specifically for this particular driver because there's nothing like it in the industry. You know, and once they get to hear it, they fall in love with it. Obviously, all the other things go in with it. So, you know, we're really excited about this particular speaker. And if you do any type of hot rods or any applications where you're limited on space, this is the ideal speaker. And it sounds incredible. The performance is unbelievable. We can't keep them in stock, nor can Morel. All right, so I'm going to flip through these slides, obviously, because we're low on time. You know, so that was all the new stuff, but it wouldn't be complete if I didn't talk about some of the other product real quick. This is, you know, the more price-conscious product, the Tempo Ultra Mark II. That's the latest series that replaces the Tempo Ultra. And then there's the Tempo Ultra Mark II Integra. Integra, once again, being the point source type product. So the tweeter is not, the tweeter is not mounted on a shaft. It's done at the base of the cone, getting rid of those phase issues, that sort of thing. You know, I'll be honest, a lot of people have played around with this Tempo. They've got massive voice holes and you know, 1.5 inch. So the type of bass that you get out of it is really impressive. And, you know, if I were to compare it to other things on the market, I would say where this fits is typically 2 series above in terms of the competition. So you might find something, you know, like this in terms of our second from the entry level up. But in terms of its performance, you usually have to go 2 or 3 series up to match the type of performance and tempo. This has been a phenomenal series for us, and you've got a little bit more flexibility in the different sizes: 4-inch, 5.25, 6, 5x7, 6x9, and components as well. And last but not least, to close it off, you know, this is where Morel really starts. You know, this is you're still getting incredible performance. You can get 2-way, 3-way systems. We are, you know, using coaxial configurations because of the price point, but you know, these are basically designed to be factory direct drop-ins. You know, you can run them off of deck power, you can run them off an amplifier, and these are great sounding speakers as well. So it's unfortunate, you know, we rushed through all that stuff, but you know, our time is limited. Really, at the end of the day, the message or the takeaway from this whole thing is Morel is a company fueled by passion. Everything that they deliver and develop, I should say, is fueled around a love of music. And that goes into everything that they make. So if you're not familiar with the products, I highly encourage you to reach out to us, give it a shot. You will not be disappointed. You know, it's a profitable brand. There's great margin in it for the dealer. Limited distribution. You know, those are the things that a lot of guys are looking nowadays. You know, when there's so many brands out there, all competing for the same customers. So, yeah, please reach out to anybody at Gemsen, and we'll be happy to get you some more Morel information.
I have a couple 2 cents I need to point out. Go back to that last slide, please, Dave.
Yeah.
Oops. So earlier on, I said, you know, the entry level is, you know, it's not your $99 speaker. Well, from what I understand, the entry point on Canadian dollars at retail is probably just under $200, which is still a very affordable speaker.
Absolutely.
You know, but with Morel DNA, and you can see from the cosmetics of this lineup that it's quite attractive. And again, with the limited distribution of it, you know, you get a chance to make some margins on, which I think is great. I want to comment on I'm sorry, what was the thinner speaker called?
The Virtus Nano Carbon.
Yeah, see, that for me is just ingenuity. I think they had a lot of balls to try to put that kind of money into that type of technology, and they knew coming out with that they were going to get criticism. I mean, you can't not expect that. But you know, I've heard myself, especially from those hot rod circles, there's nothing else that fits. And not only is it the only fit, and I don't want that to be the only reason for that speaker, but it also sounds great. And this is what I've read. I haven't heard it myself, but this is what I've read.
if this doesn't push innovation and technology, I don't know what does, because there's nothing like this, not even remotely similar. Most people would consider this a passive radiator at the end of the day, because
honestly,
it's so
it
small.
looks a lot like a passive radiator.
I love the new look and finish of everything that Morel is bringing for 2021. They all have the similar type grill and the gold treatment on it. So definitely screams prestige, screams value. You're getting your money's worth. And the presentation overall, when you open up a box, you're like, whoa. Previously they used to use, corrugated boxes that were a little bit on the simple side, but this is like, the velvet, everything behind it just screams,
everything
wow,
you expect
high
from a
quality
premier product. Yeah. What's the keyword?
Virtus. Virtus is the keyword. Okay, so you can use that keyword when you enter our contest. There might be a link on this Facebook chat. If not, you can reach out to a Gemsen rep or log in, if you're a Gemsen dealer, to our website. There's a CMA Industry Week link there, and collect all the keywords, submit them online. You could do one, you could do all of them, and you'll have a chance to win one of a bunch of different great prizes that we're going to do at the end of April. We want to encourage you guys to watch as many sessions as possible, so we're going to give you a little bit of time to do the submissions instead of rush everybody before we do the draw. If you do your submissions before April 5th, you're going to get double the amount of submissions. And go online. You can place an order on our new B2B website. Use the promo code and save yourself an extra 5% just because you watched us today. So awesome. that ends Friday. Ben, I want to thank you. Appreciate it.
We got one more, buddy. We got one more. We're almost there.
Oh,
one more to go.
Is that it? I was hoping I could tap out, but this one's a really important one, and I'm super excited about this because it might be the very last time we see this particular person in the car audio capacity.
We'll make mention to that in the next session. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thanks, Ben.
And that wraps up, a total product overview and a little bit of history in 411 on Morel loudspeakers, Morel Hi-Fi. So that's it for this session, our spotlight on Gemsen distribution. We're coming to you live from CMA Industry Week, Day 6. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.